Our special coverage of the South Carolina governor's race continues this morning. We're talking with Republican candidate Gresham Barrett. He's a U.S. congressman from South Carolina's 3rd District. That includes, of course, parts of the upstate. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. I want to talk unemployment first. Very high in South Carolina,
Sure.
Especially your district, Anderson County, hit very hard. What are your plans to bring more jobs to the state?
Well, the first thing we did, Lauren, when we decided to run for governor, we put out our plan called Putting South Carolina Back to Work. It's an 8-step, common-sense business principle plan of what we think we need to do. We've got to have total tax reform, comprehensive, where we put all the options on the table, come up with a system that's fair, that's flatter, that encourages businesses and industry to come in to South Carolina, but helps existing businesses and industry. Part of that solution has to be infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our water, our sewer, being forward-thinking and trying to position where we want our roads, our infrastructure, again, when businesses come in. Part of that, though, has to be the ports. 1 out of every 10 jobs is directly related to the ports. A $40 billion multiplier. When the post-Panamax ships come in, we want to be prepared for that. Education. You've got to have an education portion of it, and every governor's always talked about education, but I believe at the heart of education is reading. No child should leave the 3rd grade that's not at or above 3rd grade reading level. If you talk to the liberals, you talk to the conservatives, they will agree that the 3rd grade is kind of the linchpin. To do that, we've got to make sure that dollars make it to the classroom. For every dollar we spend in education in South Carolina, only about 44 cents makes it to the classroom. The national average is about 65 cents. So making sure those dollars make it to the classroom, make sure that we've got discipline in the classroom. I also think school choice is extremely important.
Let's talk about education.
Yeah.
Jim Rex, state superintendent, also running for governor, said about 4,000 jobs will get cut this year. How do you keep a quality education or strive for a better quality of education when you don't raise taxes, you don't have more revenue in the system?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. You've got to make sure, like I said earlier, that those dollars make it into the classroom. Right now, South Carolina has 4 educational budgets. We've got EIA, EAA, EFA, and First Steps. The business principle says, let's cut that down to 1 budget so we can be more effective. Another example, we've got 46 counties, 85 school districts, 64 different funding sources. Again, it's inefficient. We've got to make sure those dollars make it to the classroom where they're needed. My wife's a 1st grade school teacher, and I can't tell you the numbers of Sundays I see her with a new pack of paper and a new pack of pencils that we have bought for her children, and she's not the exception to the rule.
So district consolidation.
Absolutely. I think that's part of it. I wouldn't mandate it. What I would ask the counties is you give me transparency and you give me an accountability. I'll give you the flexibility to make sure that you get those dollars to the classroom.
Okay, let's switch gears. Talk about Arizona's immigration law.
Sure.
All 4 Republican candidates have said they are for it, but would you propose something to actually put something similar in place? And do you think it would negatively affect your plan to bring jobs here?
Yes, I would. I mean, I think that's right. I support the Arizona plan. I applaud the governor of Arizona and the legislature for trying to take their state back. The first bill I ever put in the United States Congress was a comprehensive immigration bill that secured our borders and did not give amnesty. But let's take it 1 step further. There's something South Carolina can do right now, and we've been pushing it. It's a plan called the 287G program. It's a fancy name for the Department of Homeland Security training our local and state law enforcement officers on how to enforce immigration laws. That's something that we're doing in 3 counties right now, in Beaufort, in Charleston, in York. I've talked to the sheriff of Charleston. It's working, and that's a way that South Carolina can be masters of its own destiny.
One of your TV ads talks about frivolous lawsuit reform, I believe it says. Henry McMaster's led his lawsuit against the health care plan. Would you support that if you were getting the governor's office?
Yeah, tort reform, absolutely. I think a great start is frivolous lawsuit reform. I mean, we want to create an environment in South Carolina where businesses can thrive and survive. If we're going to come out of this mess that we're in right now, we're going to do it through the private sector, not the government sector.
Okay. This past weekend, your campaign released a statement saying that, quote, it appears Representative Haley, talking about Nikki Haley, of course, has been as disingenuous and misleading with former Governor Palin as she had been with South Carolina voters, talking about the stimulus package, her vote. She was here yesterday. She says her records show that she has, in fact, not supported it this entire time. For the average voter, they don't have time to get into this he said, she said. What do you recommend?
Well, go online and take a look. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Representative Haley voted for the stimulus twice to send it to the governor's office. She didn't vote it against. She only voted against it after he vetoed it and it came back. So, you know, listen, we've been about this campaign about talking about ourselves, being very positive of how we're going to move South Carolina forward. We've got a website, GreshamBarrett.com. We've got our Putting South Carolina Back to Work plan and our Palmetto Energy Project. South Carolina can be the nation's leader when it comes to energy independence, and it starts right here in South Carolina.